right.
All right. We ready to do this?
Yes, we are. So.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shtajio's vlog. This is episode 27.
Yes.
I remembered the number this time.
Okay.
So, anything to catch up people with before we get started?
What's your name?
My name's Henry Thurlow.
I'm Arthur Isom.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. We just had a showing at Anime Expo Light.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Anime Expo Light, and there was quite a few people who joined, and they joined and watched the whole. Some people watched the whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which
yeah.
is pretty cool.
I think it was pretty good. We saw a
Yeah.
lot of comments on the side. People were enjoying it, asking different questions and stuff.
Yeah.
People were pointing out that I'm not wearing a mask while Arthel is wearing a mask,
Yeah.
and I just want to say.
Yeah.
I wear masks whenever I go outside. Like if I'm on the subway, if I'm doing anything, right? And I try to avoid like the large congregations of people. Anyway, like I ride my bike to work and everything.
Yeah.
And I still got the mask on when I'm doing it. But if I'm in the office, I already got here. Like if there's someone with corona in the office, I'm screwed. So.
Well, yeah, and we do have our. Can you give me one of these things?
We got multiple of these.
We have a lot of. We have our alcohol.
We're being safe. We're
and
being
stuff
safe.
Like that. And right now there's only two of us, so as
Yeah.
long as one of us has a mask on, it should be kind of okay. But but obviously we're not medical officials, so like we don't want our comments filled up with, well, technically,
I should be wearing
we understand.
it even when, yes.
We understand that we're not giving you advice, so please, stick to your social distancing and wear your masks and everything else.
So Arthel, we got quite the topic today. We a lot of people have actually asked us this question in the comments section. I think it's time.
Yeah, particularly. So I guess we'll give a shout out to the person who asked. So we try to say the names of the people who give us the comment, the topic. So this one was brought up by Retro Wolf, the Retro Wolf. So at the Retro Wolf. I guess that was on YouTube. So I don't know if that's his nickname on everything else, but anyway. So thank you at the Retro Wolf. And what's the topic, Henry?
So the topic is one that actually a lot of people are talking about now, which is voice actors. And do they have to be the race of the character that they're actually voice acting? So the reason this has become big news is, well, just in general, people are more, I think, socially aware of these things now. But specifically, the voice actor for Cleveland, the Family Guy character, and the voice of I forget the name of the character, but one of the voices of the characters from Big Mouth.
Oh yeah, Big Mouth. That's what is it? Oh shoot, Missy. Sorry, the character's name is Missy, and the actress who played her, Jenny Slate.
And the Cleveland actor was Mike Henry.
And then also for Central Park, we had Kristen Bell, who played Molly. So these three actresses stepped. Oh, actually, I don't know about Mike Holland, but I know Kristen Bell and Jenny Slate. Mike Henry, sorry. Mike Henry. I don't know about Mike Henry. Did he step down? Or?
I believe so.
Okay, because I know, Kristen Bell and Jenny Slate, they stepped down, like, obviously on their own volition, because I think it got a lot of. Some people got confused online where they're like, they thought they were forced to step down.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case.
And it wasn't even like, no one even brought up the topic. That was just something that they decided to do because of what's happening. And then they felt that I don't want to mix up their words, but I think one of them said I think Kristen Bell said that she realized she didn't want her privilege to take away from other people who could have opportunity, so she decided this is something that she decided to do on herself. And we obviously, before we give our opinion, I would say, like, thank you for that. Obviously people can make their own decisions for themselves. And so, making a decision for other people, being selfless, that's never wrong, right? So we can't, like, fault you for that. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're messing up things. That's a selfless thing to do, and it's amazing, and thank you. And then she's not out of a job, because I was reading that they're going to make another character for her, I think, for all of these actors, and that's great too, right? So not only did she create an opportunity for someone else, but, and then now there's more great characters that are going to be introduced to the world.
Right.
So that's cool.
Yeah, before we give our own personal individual opinions, yes, of course, everyone has the right to make their own personal opinion. So all of these voice actors, making this decision, if they think that that's what's right for them or for the time or just inside them, that is the decision they feel they need to make. I always support that. I always support the artist, make the decision is right for you. Totally 100% respect that. So, yeah.
So, great.
All right, Arthel, why don't you take it? How about you start?
Okay, so, well, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic, and I think it's an interesting time for it. And I think that's obviously why, because this topic has been going on for quite some time. Like when we were just doing a little bit of research, just reading up on things and articles, I mean, back, like I've seen some things that came up was like back in 2015 and 2012 and stuff where people are talking about race and the voice acting sphere. And, but let's just stick to the basic question, right? So the question was like, does race matter, right? Or should race matter? Or does the voice actor have to be the same race as the character? And so my first direct answer to that is no. I don't think that the actor that has to be the same race as the character that they're voicing. Now there are many variables,
layers.
There's many layers to that, and then we're gonna go into that. But if we're just specifically just talking about that one part of it, like does the actor have to be the same race? My opinion on that is no, they don't have to.
Yeah. It's a hard thing because people take sound bites now, right?
Yeah.
So here I'm about to also give the same answer, but I don't want the sound bite to be Henry saying Henry says it doesn't matter. Well, it's more nuanced than that, Exactly. So I think if you take the first sound bite and then a bunch of other sound bites throughout where I'm going to explain some things, that's fine. Obviously, I say it, so feel free to repeat what I say. But I don't like when things are skewed.
And that's we're starting to experience that obviously, but we're not going to talk about that. But like if you just take a soundbite, it's not.
So I guess right off the bat, before I go into more specifics, I think that just so that people aren't confused when we start talking about races of the characters and their relation to the voice actors and stuff. Representation does matter, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's just a full factual statement, like that does. However, I think people conflate, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. I think people conflate representation on the screen via representation in the production, right? And so if we're talking about do the staffs of these things need to be representative of a wide variety of people, right? I think the answer is just definitively yes. Behind the scenes, there should be people of all races and genders and et cetera, and sexualities, et cetera, right? There should be that input from all these different people and all these types of thinking to make the projects, right? So if there is, let's actually reverse it. There's tons of diversity on screen, but then you go to the room of who made it, and it's all just white men. I think that's problematic. Now on screen, the representation was wonderful, right? But realistically, only white men made money in that, right? So behind the scenes, I think that diversity is super important. On the screen, it's still important, and yet I actually think those aren't equal. If behind the scenes, a super diverse set of people, who all had input and all made money off of it and all loved the project they made a project with somewhat diversity, but for whatever reason that staff decided, no, actually these characters better do that, then I think, honestly, that's a better end point to get to.
I mean, that in itself is a whole big conversation because, like say, for example, and this is also the reason why I kind of feel like the voice actor doesn't, so just to bring it back to the topic, why the voice actor can be a different race, because what if the story is, I don't know, a Greek tragedy or whatever, or some Greek mythology, so now, are you going to just throw a whole bunch of diverse characters on the screen, even though the story is taking place in Greece? And I don't want people to say, well, there were some Africans. I get it. I know. But if the story is not about that, it's not about that. So, we're just saying, okay, if the story is about the British Empire now, the Queen, okay, so get away from that. In the Queen's house, right? Every character is obviously going to be white. But if it's a cartoon, why can't Latins and Europeans and if the voice fits the character, then that's totally fine, and so I don't think that just because the story is taking place in Europe that all the if it's a cartoon that all the actors have to be. I mean, there's lots of you know, if you go to England and whatever, there's lots of people who speak British English and they're not, you know, white, right? And
I'm going to get to the main topic of specifically animated things, but before that, I just have one like quick point to make about even live action before I say that. There's obviously egregious examples of people who should not be cast as one race doing that, right? So you can't put someone in blackface or anything so ridiculous like that, right? But even in live action, there are gray zones which actually people don't have problems with. Yeah. So long as the person cast truly can appear as this character, then people generally actually are okay with it. It is acting, right? So a couple examples that I just want to give is Memoirs of a Geisha. Zhang Ziyi was the main actress. She's Chinese. She was playing a Japanese person. I'm sure that some Japanese nationalists had a problem with that. And yet, at the end of the day, I think she conveyed it well, right? So how specific and crazy do you want to be that the person playing the part needs to be the exact same? Similarly, Robert De Niro, I don't even know what his actual ethnicity is, or like, you know, what his what was it, nationality, or what you...
his race.
What's the word? I'm forgetting it. You know,
his,
roots or whatever.
Heritage,
heritage.
Yeah.
So in some movies he's the Italian gangster, and in other ones he's the Irish gangster, right? And yet no one has a problem with that because it's like, oh look, the character is doing a great part conveying that, and there's no clear, heinous, you know, offense being shown. So we're good to go with this. With that being said, to be honest, when it comes to animation, there's even more leeway because now you're not even talking about like Robert De Niro can be both Italian or Irish because visually he could fall in any of those categories. Yeah. But it would be even more leniency once we get into animation because the only thing the actor needs to really focus on is the voice. So can the voice, can you convince people that this is the voice that truly fits this character? And if they cross that threshold, then I'd say they're the person for the job.
And I totally agree with everything you just said. And then, but of course, like, so now let's state the opposite opinion of this, right? And so like I play devil's advocate, or not even really devil's advocate, because this is also something that I obviously believe in. And so even though I said that the actor doesn't matter, there are cases when it does, and then there are cases when it should matter. And so, like Henry said about representation on screen, off screen, for example, so I kind of feel weird because I'm not trying to point out these films because like in the case of was it Big Mouth, I guess. So actually, there's not a lot of black characters, right? And what it was, and then like so behind the screen, behind the cast was actually almost all white actresses and actors playing. And I think there's like, you know, there's a few guest roles and things like that where they had a few, you know, minorities who got to play a part. And so in that instance, now if the cast was really diverse from the beginning and you had lots of like black and Latin and you know whatever characters playing even the white screen characters, then I'm like cool because then it truly is diverse. But if all the characters are white, if all the actors are white, and then you have the one character on screen who happens to be a multiracial character or a black character, and then that voice actor is also white. Then now I think, you know, we like even the directors should kind of take pause to that and think about it, because like, you know, that's the only like character that you have of a different race, and even that character you're going to cast as a white character. And so I think that, you know, I'm pretty sure like people throw out that argument that, well, it should be the best person for the job. Well, are you like? Then it's like, well, did you even ask? Like, did you? Yeah. So are you telling me that like you questioned 500 voice actors? You had a whole bunch of them come in, but yet all the minorities sucked. You know, all the minorities were the worst, the voices ever, and so that's why we chose.
That's quite the coincidence. I mean, you know, if that happened once in 1,000 productions, I might give it leeway. But considering it happens in almost every production, I'm suspicious. That's exactly what I said is my first caveat, though. I think those are two separate things: the hiring process behind the scenes and who's really working on it versus just the characters. Now, if it's mostly white people working behind the scenes, then that is 100% problematic, full stop. Like, we could have a whole podcast on that one, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just in 100% agreement with you on that. In regards to the voiced characters, so here's my thing. I've actually seen two kind of conflicting ideas being pushed as progressive, essentially, right? So on the one hand, obviously, I think most of the news surrounding, you know, Cleveland and these and the Big Mouth character changing has been positive. Like, oh wow, that's awesome, right? Good for them letting, you know, new people come into the production and things like that. At the same time, I've seen like hashtag normalize black voice actors playing white characters or something like that, right? Like, or anime characters in general, as we talked about in previous vlog. Like, there's not really that many black characters, right? Even ones. Even ones that have dark skin, we're not even 100% sure if they're black, right? So specifically black characters are kind of really rare, right? And yet, I want to see lots of black voice actors, right? So by default, they will have to play those other parts. So Zeno Robinson is a black voice actor who is, I guess just like today, he was announced for Ogun, which is a Fire Force character, and that character I think is black, so that's just a full match. He's also playing Hawks from My Hero Academia, which is not a black character, right? Now, according to us, though, that's 100% okay. Does the voice fit? Okay, he's a great voice actor. Let's hear him with Hawks. Boom. Perfect match. Awesome. Let's do it, right? But between, you know, we know each other, and one thing you know about me is I hate hypocrisy. Hypocrisy really bothers me.
Actually, the both of us hate hypocrisy.
I just, you know, I do care what your opinions on individual topics are, but I almost care less about that than just so long as you are being consistent and not hypocritical, right? Because at least then I know that you truly mean what you're saying, and you're not just changing your opinion.
Yeah, because then you have the same problem, right? I mean, now you have a bias, just opposed.
So is it okay that he and the Cleveland actor play different races, or is it not okay in both cases? But one of those should be the answer, right? So for me, though, it would be it's okay on both counts, right? So long as the voice fits. Similarly, Phil Lamar voices Samurai Jack. Phil Lamar, the comedian from like Mad TV and stuff. He does a great job. I don't want to hear news that he's stepping down and they're getting a Japanese voice actor. Not to say that I don't want Japanese voice actors having lots of jobs, but, you know, he's Samurai Jack. He's done a great job with it. I think you should keep it if there's future things, right? That's my opinion.
I think, and that's actually, so that's a good point that you just brought up, because it brings you to the next point that I wanted to make during this vlog. So, yeah, like, you can't be hypocritical. Like, it has to go both ways, or, you know, it has to go all ways, right? It should just be equal, right? So, which is the reason why all actors should be able to play any role. But now, I will say the opposing thing, which isn't really hypocritical, but obviously everything is nuanced, everything has gray areas. There are points where specific races should play the race that is, and I think there's only probably one instance that I can think of which would make that acceptable, and I think every other instance the race or who's playing the character shouldn't matter. But when I feel that when the gender or when the race of the character is part of the identity, and that identity is important to the character in the story,
that's fair.
Then I feel that you should really go out of your way to find that person who fits that identity. And what I mean by that is not, okay, cool, here's a story about firefighters and you happen to have a gay black character, for example. You can have a white straight person play that role because the identity is not important for that. The story is about firefighters.
Right.
But if the story is about a gay black character who's his
life experience is truly the narrative of the story.
He's trying to come out or something like that, and like, you know, and it's about how he has to fight the forces of evil who's trying to hold him down, whatever, right? Who's trying to stop him from being gay. Like, then obviously, to me, you should go find a black gay voice actor to play that role, because the experiences that they will bring and the voices they can bring will be different than if you get like a straight like whatever, like Japanese actor to play it, because because their identity is important to the character's role. But I think that's probably the only instance where I can think of.
Just to expand on what you're saying, if this is clearly the story of a main character, a man, a woman, right? Like, and we follow that person the entire time, and that person has what's it called when like they talk to the screen themselves? Shakespeare did it. No, Shakespeare did it all the time.
Soliloquy.
Monologue. Monologue.
It's called soliloquy.
Like if they're going to have something like that, and like it's the story of a Jewish person during the Holocaust, and how how what this time means to the Jewish people, you should probably have a Jewish person give that emotional kind of delivery, right? And similarly, like if it is the story of a black person and that
at least
identity,
find someone as close to that, because obviously, like if you can't find the character, then I think that's when you go out and you find like someone close. So then maybe we can't find a Jewish person, which I don't know if that problem exists, but like then maybe you'll find another white actor or something who's at least from Europe or whatever, who has some sort of experience. But
it's a hard thing because so now I'm gonna like hold our feet to the fire a little bit, right? In the future, we might be in charge of hiring and directing different things, right? And I'm curious what so I'm gonna give my opinion on how I might handle that situation, and I am interested in the comments below, though. I am interested in hearing people. So like the voice of Spawn, the show that I'd say a million times, Keith David, right? I love that dude's voice. It's like the greatest voice ever, right? And for me personally, I love that show. Let's say I get a message somehow, Keith David is interested in voicing something for you, but he's only available in this one time frame. Like, if you guys are interested, he says he heard about you via, social networking, and like, do you have anything for him right now? If I have only something that we're making and everything's already been set in stone, cast, except for like 2 of the white main characters, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to have him voice one of them, right? Because I can't not take this amazing opportunity, and I know he's just an A+++ voice actor. I guarantee this will fit right into one of these characters, and so that's how I would probably handle it. And similar, like I'd probably from the get-go try to be socially conscious of people's feelings towards this and try to cast as best as I could. But if I'm in that situation, I'm going to pick better voice acting over anything else, right? Similarly, just to, flip it and hold my feet really to the fire, we love The Professional, right? That movie. Yeah. So, yes, and Gary Oldman. Yeah. Do we love Gary Oldman? Gary Oldman is awesome. Great actor. Same exact message comes in. Hey, Gary Oldman saw something on YouTube about you guys. He says if you've got something right now, he'd love to voice act. Now, let's say what we're producing at that moment is, because we're making a representative, progressive thing or something, right? Yeah. And we're, at that moment, producing something where there's only 5 characters and all of them are black. We had a fully black casting. But right now, Gary Oldman says he'll voice one of your characters. I'd be like, Arthel, we should probably have Gary Oldman voice one of these guys.
That's so difficult. That's difficult. So I think I would go back to you brought up a good point that I want to talk about, but just to kind of talk about Gary Oldman. I really like Gary Oldman, but so I would think it would depend on
the story
and everything else, because if it falls back onto the example that we just said, that if it's part of the character's identity, then I'll be like, I'm sorry, Gary Oldman, like, we can't use it, right? Like, I saw this, I found a term online, which I thought I'd bring it back, and I wish, I don't remember her name, but she didn't make it up. She saw it somewhere else, so I think it's okay. But she was saying, like, digital blackface, which I thought was interesting. And I was like, that's an interesting term, because I've never heard of that before. But I think that if it's part of that character's identity, but then you have, like, a white actor playing it, I don't know, to me, that I feel that shouldn't we should go out of our way to try to find. But that's like an extreme example.
But what if what if it isn't the story of the black struggle within these 5 characters, and rather just these 5 characters are in a fantasy world fighting a whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever. Then I think like I don't know. I think that it probably doesn't really matter then. Like if Gary Oldman is there, and obviously we all understand how productions work, and it's like, okay, you got to put the package together, and Gary Oldman can get projects greenlit, and Joe from high school, like nobody knows him, so like no one's gonna pay us $1 million to hear his voice. But like so those things also matter. But you did bring up a good point about experience, because I hear that argument thrown around a lot recently, and not only about, so we're only talking about voice acting, but obviously there's that big major thing that happened with the editing online and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that, but I feel that people throw that around a lot. Oh, well, you have to hire the person with more experience, or the better voice actor, or the credentials. But because we already understand how the industry has been made, and so if all the acting roles up until now have always gone to, like, let's say white roles, or like white actors and things, then of course you never gave the other actors the chance to get experience. And so then I feel like, so how can you throw that argument out? Like, well, because of course they don't have experience, because you didn't give them the chance to get experience. The problem is, and I admit this, you can't totally remove at all, especially that, like, history from, current events, right? And so, what I want is for everywhere to be fully staffed diversely. Once that happens, I think you'd even be more lenient with the Gary Oldman thing, because behind the scenes, black people really do have a chance all around, right? And so in that case, I think you'd want to be like, well, guys, look, everyone's doing good. Now we're going to use that Gary Oldman, right? But the fact that behind the scene, maybe our studio is okay, maybe there's a handful of studios that are okay, but because it's not okay so many places, it still makes it awkward. So that angers me. Everyone do better, right? Once everyone is doing better and everyone is staffed properly, then actually this probably won't be a problem for most people. And I think that's what it boils down to, because it's like, obviously, so we both said our answer, or our opinion in the beginning, which is it doesn't matter. But as we're talking, we're just naming things of why it matters, right? And so you're like, well, then what's the point? But that is the point, what you just said just now, that all the studios and all the industries outside of even animation just have to do better, because talent exists in every race, every gender, every country. Like, it does, like race doesn't equate to better talent, and so that shouldn't, and gender doesn't equate to better talent. And so that shouldn't be the qualifying factor or the prerequisite, unless you're playing like a female role. Then obviously choose the gender, or take that out. But and so if
gender is fluid, Arthur. Look at you adding your biases.
Right. Gender bias is more like, well, no, I think that's like watching a live action movie. Then you're well, although I guess it works with Kabuki and only Kabuki, right? It's Kabuki, in Japan we got Kabuki, which is all male actors, and then you have, but then what about the women? But then we have Takarazuka, which is all female actors, so it's equal. But anyway, like, we're not talking about that. So I think that
it's all kind of related.
Well, it is kind of related, But just if everyone did better, if all the studios did better, if every company, you just hired people across the board, and you gave people chances across the board, and everybody got the chance to show their talent, and you've seen it as equal, then this conversation wouldn't even be happening. And that's
one last question for the people, right? I'm curious, right? So right now we have yet to do a big giant production, right? Where it's 10 episodes and hundreds of characters might talk throughout the whole thing, right? Often when there's background characters like, hey guys, over here, something like that,
the extra,
or maybe 2 sentences or something. I heard about you from John. I had to give you this information, right? Like, here's the information, but please be quiet about it. All right, I gotta run, right? Little things like that. I know that behind the scenes, like, a lot of people working in the production kind of just take those roles, right? Because we don't need to to have interviews and casting and everything for those 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So if someone is interested in doing that or can do that, right? So like I'd be interested in doing that. Obviously I like talking, right?
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't mind throwing in my voice, not as a main character because I'm not a voice actor, you know, but like if there's little lines here and there. Let's say we're doing a production and you know, again, like it's actually awesome in terms of representation because all the characters on screen are black, right? But we need one of the black characters in the back to be like, guys, I got to talk to you. Can I do that? Uh-oh.
Yeah, what do you guys
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? In the future, I want to hear beforehand.
Can he say, guys? Wait, what do you,
whatever it is. Hey, guys, over here.
Hey, guys, over here. That's funny. All right, everyone. So that's that. That's our opinion and on what's on this conversation that's going on right now. So as we always say,
yep.
Shtajio ga daiji.
Shtajio ga daiji.
Peace.
See you guys.